Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening or night wherever you are. Today we have another easy problem from Edabit. So if you are at the beginning of your journey with JavaScript, this is gonna be somewhere right up your alley. Now the problem says create a function that takes two numbers as arguments, num and length, and returns an array of multiples of num until the array length reaches length. So we have to create an array in which we push multiples of num until the array reaches this length that is given as an argument, right? And it returns the array at the end. Okay, so you can see some examples. The number is 7 and the length is 5. It's going to be 7, then 14 multiple, then 21, 28, 35. And you can see, if you're looking at it, that the last number in the array will be actually the number that we're doing multiplies for, multiples of, multiplied by the length, right? So again, you can see here 12, 24, and if you look at the last one, 120, you can see that is 12 multiplied by 10. Okay, this can be solved in multiple way. I think maybe we will solve it in two ways, so you can see how it can be done. So I'm going to create a function here. Well, let's go to code, and we can copy the starting of the function. I'm going to go in Visual Studio Code. This is my favorite editor, and we're going to say something like this. We're going to create an array, and you can make the array const and you can still push into it, but as to not confuse new people to JavaScript, I will make it a let. But you have to know that while if you create an array as a constant like this, const multiples equal 1, 2, 3, you can still push new elements into it and change the elements inside. So you can do something like this: multiples of 0 equals 3, therefore changing the element at the position 0 that has the index 0. So you can still modify each element, but you cannot modify modify the array, because the array is like an address in memory, and one is the constant, you cannot change it. So you cannot do something like this: multiples equals 2, 4. That will give you an error because you're trying to assign something else to a constant, right? So going back to the challenge, we're going to say const multiples, and multiples, so we can actually use const. I was thinking to use let as not to confuse anyone, but I hope you understand what I said there, right? And we're going to start with an empty array, and then we're going to say let, and we're using let because the variable that we're declaring now is going to change, so we can't use const for that. So we say let multiplier equal 1, right? And then we will say while. We will use a while loop, and if you don't know how the while loops work, I will link a video up above because I have a video about it. And we will say something like while multiplier is less than length plus 1, or we can say while multiplier is less or equal to length. So we want to basically multiply the number that we're having with the multiplier as long as the multiplier is less or equal to the length. because we know that the last number in the array will be actually the number multiplied by the length. So we will say while multiplier is less or equal to length, we want to say multiplier push, and I think I have a video as well about the push method. If I have, I will link it here. But push is basically an array method that you can push things at the end of an array, right? So what we want to say is multiplier push, and we will say num multiplied by multiplier. And now you can see why we gave the multiplier 1, because we're starting with 1. As you can see in the problem, the first element in the array is actually the number. So the number multiplied by 1 will be the number. So that will be the first element in the array. That's why we're starting here with 1, right? Because we will first multiply with 1 and we will get the number and we will push it into the array. And after we push it in the array, what we want to do is we have to basically increment by 1 the multiplier. Otherwise, if we don't increment it, it's gonna keep pushing the same thing over and over, and this loop will never finish, because multiplier is always gonna be 1, so it's always gonna be less than length, right? So we want to say multiplier equal multiplier plus 1, which can also be written as, if you don't know it, if you give to a multiplier you just increment it by 1, you can use multiplier plus plus, right? So basically now this now increment. So if this would be 7, if when we call it we will give 7 and 5, first we will say multiplier is less than length, yes, because it's 1, so it's less than 5, and we will say multiplier push num 7 or 1, so we will push 7, and then this multiplier will become 2. So in the next iteration of the loop we will push 7 or 2, and then it will become 3. We will push 7 and 3 until it becomes 5. When it becomes 5, it is also going to push it 7 or 5, because 5 is less or equal to 5, so we will push it. But then after it becomes 6, then is 6 less or equal to 5? No, so it will not do this anymore and finish the loop, right? So let's go back here, and after this loop finish we can say return multiples, because we have to return this array, right? So return multiples. Okay, so let's try this function out here. Solutions, no, code, we can put it here, right? So let's try it out. Multiplier push. Oh, here we've done a problem because we're trying to push into the multiplier. This is a confusion. We want to push into multiples, not into multiplier, right? So here we put multiples and we return multiples. Yeah, let's try again. Okay, check. So all this passes, and like I promised, I will, if you want to see it solved in a way that's a bit different, I will solve it in another way as well, so you can see how problems have different solutions. So what we can say is something like this: cons multiples. Again, we will start with the same thing. Cons multiples equal empty array, and we will say we can even modify the number. So we will say while num is different. Actually, no, let's not say this, because this is gonna give an error. We can say something like this. Let's say let's multiplied equal number, and we will say so it starts with the number, and then we will say while multiplied is different, so is different than number multiplied by length plus 1, because we know the last one is num or length. So we want to say while multiplied, so while the multiplied number is different than the next one that comes after num or length, which is num or length plus 1. So num multiplied with length plus 1. So we want to say while this is happening, we want to say multiples. So this is a bit different, but it's basically kind of the same thing. Multiples push multiplied, and then we want to say multiplied equals multiplied plus number, because multiply starts with number, and then after each push we add number to it, which is basically makes the next multiplier. So first it will be 7, then it adds 7 again, it will be 14. So then multiply will be 14, it adds 7 again, 21. So while is different than this, it pushes, and after that it stops. Once it has reached this, it doesn't push this one. Okay, and this can also be write as multiply plus equal num, and we want to say return multiples again. So this is another way of writing it, just to understand kind of different logics and how logic works in JavaScript. Try this as well. And it works, right? So basically we put two solutions. Okay, so this was the challenge for today. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please give a like and subscribe maybe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.